When my husband finally shared his true desires, I found myself laughing at first. I truly believed he was just joking. How could he possibly be serious? We found ourselves gathered around the kitchen table. The night had settled in, and the children were peacefully tucked away in their rooms above. The dishwasher quietly filled the room with its gentle hum. I had just poured him a glass of wine, a simple act we hadn't shared in what felt like ages. And then he looked at me, right in the eyes, and said something that turned my stomach in a way I'll always remember. What he asked for was not only surprising, it was also deeply unsettling, crossing boundaries that felt unimaginable. And yet, I remained silent, holding back tears, choosing to stay in the room. Do you want to hear what I did? I chuckled gently, a bit uneasily, the sort of laugh that escapes when my mind struggles to align with my feelings. And I smiled because it felt simpler than breaking down. But then he said, "No, sweetheart, I'm truly serious." And in that moment, a profound change stirred within me. Have you ever experienced a night when the quiet in the room becomes almost overwhelming? How is it that the person you once shared everything with, the bed, the dreams, the tears, can suddenly seem so distant, almost like a stranger? There I was, in my own kitchen, listening to my husband, the man I had devoted myself to, share his desire, and not just any wish, but one that was deeply personal to me and my sister. Yes, my sister, I feel a deep sense of regret about what unfolded afterward. To be honest, I find myself questioning my decision to agree. Perhaps it was the long stretch of time spent feeling unnoticed. Perhaps it was the void I had been attempting to address in subtle, personal, and urgent manners, or perhaps I simply found it difficult to express my refusal. However, if your intention is to pass judgment, this may not be the narrative you seek. This narrative goes beyond the theme of betrayal. It's about experiencing a sense of exclusion. It's about feeling isolated even when surrounded by others. It's about feeling so deeply deprived of emotional connection that when someone, even if they're not the right person, acknowledges your existence, you agree just to experience any kind of feeling. What began as an uncomfortable dinner concluded with my sister in tears in my bathroom. As I gazed into the mirror, I found myself questioning the person I had turned into. And with my husband, the same man who once vowed to safeguard my heart, turning his back on the chaos he helped create as if it were just another ordinary day. Before I share my entire story, and trust me, I will hold nothing back, please take a moment to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga. Here, we embrace the reality without embellishment. We reveal the authentic, complex, human experiences that often go unspoken. And if you've ever experienced a sense of being overlooked in your own marriage, if you've ever contemplated the lengths to which someone might reach simply to regain a sense of visibility, perhaps in time you'll come to see the reasons behind my decision to agree. Shall we start? Allow me to take you on a journey to the past. 14 years have passed. That's the duration of my marriage with Michael. We've created a life together with 2 children, a home to call our own, soccer games, PTA meetings, and dinners as a couple, following the familiar routine. At first glance, it seems like a life that many would admire, yet the truth often eludes the written word. It fails to reveal the separation. It's remarkable how 2 individuals can lie side by side each night, yet experience an emotional distance that feels insurmountable. It doesn't reveal the countless nights I spent at the edge of that bed, gazing at his back, questioning whether he still recalled the warmth of loving touch, rather than just the motions of habit. I once radiated energy. I was the kind of woman who laughed with abandon, danced freely in the kitchen, and wore red lipstick just because it made me feel alive. But as time goes on, I'm not sure. It seems like the vibrancy has simply diminished over time, gradually like a sunset that lingers, fading softly until you find yourself enveloped in darkness, unaware of the transition taking place. At 42, I find myself still in this marriage, still committed, still handling the chores while he quietly communicates with someone else beneath the table. Michael, my husband, is quite accomplished. He leads a tech company, navigates the roads in a stylish car, and wears a cologne that leaves a lasting impression on everything around him. To the outside world, he appears captivating, insightful, and refined. To me, he feels like a lingering presence, a man who is present in body but has long been absent in spirit. He's the type of husband who marks the calendar for birthdays, yet overlooks the simple act of checking in on my well being. He'll buy me a new phone. Yet he hasn't met my gaze at dinner since our youngest turned 10. He shares warm smiles with waitresses and engages in lighthearted banter with the mothers during school pickup. Yet within the walls of my home, there is only quiet. And at times, it can feel even more challenging. I understand apathy, but the most challenging aspect, I ceased my requests for anything additional. At a certain moment, remaining quiet feels easier than facing the pain of being turned away. Then there's my sister Jessica. She's 7 years my junior and possesses a captivating presence that draws attention the moment she enters a room. She exudes a quiet warmth that draws people in without any need for flair. Illumination, unburdened. I have always been the one who embraces life with a lighter heart than you. She would twirl joyfully on the tables as I quietly tidied up the aftermath. Yet I never felt jealousy towards her. Not quite, perhaps I truly did. She came to stay with us a few months back, just for a short time. She spoke. Following a tumultuous separation, a man she believed would be her future partner vanished from her life after 2 years of shared moments. She felt utterly shattered. As her older sister, I acted in the way that any caring sibling would. I opened my heart for her within the walls of our home, within our everyday lives. Throughout my journey, it was meant to be a short-lived situation. Our house is truly a sight to behold. 3 bedrooms, a meticulously cared for lawn, soft lighting that creates a comforting ambiance. It's the sort of home that radiates warmth and togetherness. Yet it feels so superficial, like an exquisitely arranged sanctuary. Everything is in order. No spirit. The kitchen carries the lingering scent of vanilla candles mixed with the faint trace of burnt coffee. Family portraits adorn the walls, showcasing cheerful expressions, coordinated outfits, and bright smiles. Yet there are moments when I gaze at them and they seem distant, as if they've drifted away from who we are. They seem distant and unfamiliar. It felt like a life we were only acting out. Because beneath those cheerful images lie neglected meals, unanswered calls, disagreements that lingered simmering beneath the surface, filled with unspoken feelings, and fleeting looks, nuanced ones. The connection between Michael and Jessica. I began to observe it in subtle instances, the way he gazed at her when she found joy and laughter, his unexpected willingness to lend a hand whenever she was nearby, how his gaze held for just a moment longer than necessary when she entered the room in one of those soft, comfortable t-shirts she enjoyed wearing at home. Initially, I dismissed it. I reassured myself that he was simply showing kindness. Jessica was in pain, and he was doing his best to create a sense of belonging for her. Isn't that true? But my instincts, my intuition whispered a different truth. It inevitably happens, that unsettling sensation deep within you when things feel off, yet I chose to overlook it because recognizing it would require confronting a reality I wasn't prepared to accept. I was already burdened with so many unresolved questions about our marriage. We created our own little world. I put on a smile when it was expected of me, ensured Jessica felt at ease, helped Michael find his peace. I held it all together. From the outside, we appeared to be a family, yet beneath the surface, decay lingered within the walls, like a quiet erosion, slowly undermining the very essence of what I believed I had built. And in some way, I felt it within me. Just a single spark is all that's needed. A daring, unsettling, impulsive ignition to let it all go. And Michael, he clutched the match tightly. It took place on a Saturday evening, only the 3 of us. Michael, Jessica, and I gathered at the dining table. The children are already settled in for the night. The house felt eerily still. Soft melodies floated gently through the air. Soft jazz filled the air, a familiar choice of Michael's when he aims to create a special atmosphere. Even though I never truly understood what type it was, we had just wrapped up our meal. I prepared chicken piccata. Jessica retrieved the familiar bottle of red wine that held a special place in her heart. We felt a sense of fullness, warmth, and just the right amount of tipsiness. that allowed us to lower our defenses, even if only a small amount. We shared a moment of laughter over something Jessica mentioned. I can't seem to recall what it was anymore. Just something fun and playful. And then, unexpectedly, Michael leaned back in his chair, took a slow sip of wine, and remarked, "Isn't it fascinating how free some couples feel these days?" Initially, it didn't sink in. I believed he was referring to feelings, perhaps on a spiritual level. So I tilted my head and inquired, "How did you find freedom?" And then he finally spoke those words. You know, like those couples who share a deep connection without being overly clingy, who express themselves more openly, with faith, with deep affection, like accepting and understanding things, exploring connections with multiple partners, that kind of experience. He mentioned it with such nonchalance, so effortless, as if he were casually discussing the weather. It felt like we were sharing thoughts about a podcast. Not what this was turning into. I sensed my grip on the wine glass grow firmer. Jessica laughed softly, with a sense of sincerity and naivety, and playfully rolled her eyes. "Oh dear, you've been watching those unusual documentaries again," she remarked, shaking her head and casually popping a grape into her mouth as if nothing had just changed. What about me? I found myself laughing as well, yet it felt so distant from reality. It was a laugh that escaped your lips before your heart could catch up. Because my heart was beginning to quicken, the discussion shifted, or perhaps they simply allowed it to fade away. Michael filled another glass of wine. Jessica wrapped herself in a blanket and settled onto the couch, her legs tucked beneath her, a familiar comfort that felt like home. As I washed the dishes, my hands felt strangely unfamiliar, as if they were not my own. Yet my thoughts were trapped. Trapped in that thought, haunted by the way his gaze lingered on me when he whispered, "Someone close, a person you can rely on." That night, I remained silent, not as long as Jessica was present, not when we exchanged our good nights, and I settled into bed beside him. Not even when I gazed up at the ceiling in the dark, hearing his steady breathing next to me, peaceful, at ease, as if he hadn't just revealed something I wasn't prepared to confront. It was only the following evening, after Jessica had stepped out for a walk and the children were absorbed in their video games, that he revisited the topic. We found ourselves in the kitchen. I was gently cleaning the counter. He stood behind me, silent and contemplative. "It feels overwhelmingly silent. You know I would never do anything to harm you," he said. I felt paralyzed. That phrase always signals that something significant is on the horizon, and whatever it was, I sensed it wouldn't end well. "I'm serious about this," he went on. "I could never bring myself to do anything that would hurt you. However, if you're willing to explore this, we could deepen our connection like never before." I slowly turned around. "Michael, can you clarify what you mean?" And then he spoke it openly, without remorse, without a moment's pause. "What if we invited someone close to help us reconnect emotionally? Someone we both trust?" My heart sank. My body felt a chill wash over me. "I'm not suggesting that anything needs to occur," he added hastily, "but consider it for a moment. We share a deep bond and care for one another. We have faith in one another. It's not as if it would be considered betrayal. It would be an experience unlike any other, something profound." I remained silent. I was unable to. I stood there, dish towel in hand, gazing at the man I believed I understood. This man who would gently kiss my forehead before heading to work, who shed tears of joy when our daughter entered the world, who would softly whisper his love into the back of my neck when he believed I was asleep. And now he was asking me to, what if we brought someone close to us into the conversation to help us reconnect emotionally? I felt a wave of unease, as if the ground was shifting subtly beneath me. Yet the most unsettling aspect was not merely what he said. It was the expression in his eyes, serene, determined, filled with promise. He truly meant it, every single word. And that's when it hit me. This was more than just a dream for him. This was not a mere jest born from inebriation. This was a longing he had held onto for some time. And now he had finally voiced his feelings. I spent the entire night awake. I lay there in our bed next to Michael, gazing at the ceiling, attempting to grasp the reality of what had just unfolded. He had invited me to include my sister in our marriage, in our shared space, not as a jest, not casually, but as if it were something profound, organic, and reasonable. All I could think was how long it had been since he had touched me. No gentle hand on my back as I walked by, no lingering kiss, not even a glance that conveyed, "You're still beautiful to me." But now, he expressed a longing that blurred boundaries I never thought we'd confront, especially involving someone close to me. That night, I shifted onto my side and gazed at him. His face radiated tranquility, a serene expression, as if he had finally let go of his struggles. All I felt was turmoil, a relentless, overwhelming storm within my chest that I couldn't calm, no matter how still I tried to be. The memories flooded my mind, vivid scenes of Jessica in her tank tops twirling in the kitchen, her laughter ringing out as she found joy in Michael's dry humor, as if he were the most amusing person alive. I recall that moment from last month when we were grilling outside and Jessica accidentally spilled her drink. Michael hurried to get a towel, but it was the tenderness of his touch on her back and the warmth of her smile that lingered in the air. I convinced myself it was harmless, but now I'm uncertain. Had it been unfolding right in front of me all along? Was I truly unaware, or had I simply decided to look away? I made an effort to approach the situation with logic. He approached me first, I reassured myself. He was open about his actions. He was honest with me throughout. He presented me with an option. Isn't that what everyone claims to desire in a relationship? Truthfulness? But then another voice inside me, the one I've silenced so many times, whispered, "What kind of man believes that sharing his wife with her sister is a true expression of love?" I found myself searching for understanding. Was this about deep feelings? Was it about something new and different? Was it about power? Or was it about something so much deeper that I wasn't prepared to confront? I wandered through the following days, enveloped in a haze of confusion. I put on a smile when it was necessary, helped the kids prepare for school, organized the laundry, and responded to my friends with cheerful emojis and enthusiastic exclamations. Yet deep down, I was falling apart. Every sound in the house resonated deeply. Every moment of quiet seemed laden with unspoken tension. And Jessica, she was simply being herself, laughing heartily at TikToks, enjoying board games with the kids, preparing smoothie bowls in the morning, as if she were unaware of the storm brewing around her. One morning, I decided to gently explore the topic, just in a relaxed way over coffee. I mentioned, "Have you ever considered how unusual some relationships can be these days? It's surprising how candid some individuals can be." She blinked, a wave of uncertainty washing over her. "Are you referring to things like poly?" "Yeah," I said, moving my spoon in circles even though my cup was empty. "Can you imagine being in a situation like that?" She chuckled, nearly sputtering on her toast. "Oh, I can't believe this is happening." I struggle with feelings of jealousy. I would feel completely overwhelmed. Then she asked, "Why? Did someone make a move on you and Michael?" She was joking, yet I found no joy in it. For in that instant, I became aware of a weighty truth that felt as though it might overwhelm me. She felt completely in the dark, unaware of Michael's thoughts, uncertain of his desires, and lost in the new possibilities that were now being presented to me. And yet, with each passing day, their bond deepened. Unshared laughter, gentle nudges, and touches that held a moment too long, leaving me to question if my mind was playing tricks on me. One evening, I found myself lingering outside the guest room where Jessica was staying. The door stood a little open. The room was dim, illuminated only by the gentle light of her television. I listened to them, both of them. Michael had stepped in to see about something, I believe. That's what he shared with me. Yet, I caught the sound of laughter, soft, relaxed, and comforting. At that moment, I heard someone call my name. I couldn't grasp the words, only the way it concluded. And then Jessica laughed, that pure, unfiltered sound I recognized so intimately, followed by a hush. It held a certain tension, not overtly playful, yet undeniably significant. And that's the essence of these moments. They exist in the nuances, in the delicate changes, the near misses, the things left unspoken. I remained in that moment, feeling the weight of time, attuned to the silence, holding my breath softly. And in that moment, I understood something that sent a shiver through me. If I didn't take action soon, someone else might take control of my fate. Following that evening outside Jessica's room, a change stirred within me. I chose not to confront Michael. I remained silent, holding back my emotions and refraining from seeking clarity. I just began to observe, to witness them, to focus on him. Each fleeting instance turned into a testament. Each smile, each touch, and every time Jessica called his name with that familiar, playful tone, reminiscent of the way she used to address her boyfriends in our youth. And Michael began to transform. He started to pay more attention. One afternoon, he walked through the door with a bouquet of lilies, my favorite. It had been nearly 2 years since I last received flowers from him. He reached out to me throughout the day, sharing not just mundane tasks or financial matters, but sweet little notes and kind words. One evening, unexpectedly, he entered the bathroom as I was washing my face, wrapped his arms around my waist, and softly said, "I miss us." Yet I understood his intentions. He felt a void without me. He longed for the part of me that would have embraced his unconventional aspirations. Then arrived the offerings. New earrings, a delicate silk robe, a reservation at that steakhouse we cherished together. Every time I expressed my gratitude, he would smile slowly and intentionally, as if to convey, "Doesn't this bring us joy?" Then he began to speak of journeys, faith, and growth. He expressed that we have been caught in the same pattern for far too long. Shouldn't we explore new experiences together, united? He kept repeating that word as if he were presenting me with something precious, a new chapter in our connection. But all I could feel was a heavy sense of unease growing silently, hidden away like something unwanted beneath the surface. One day, Michael casually made a suggestion, as if it were just another ordinary moment. "How about we escape for the weekend together?" he mentioned during dinner. "Only we three, including Jessica, the children, can spend time with my sister." I blinked, taken aback by the weight of the moment. "Are you suggesting that the three of us should go together?" "Absolutely." He offered a gentle smile. "It feels reminiscent of the past, doesn't it?" Before the overwhelming demands of her job, Jessica truly deserved a moment to herself. "Let's take a moment to relax. Let's find our way back to each other once more." Jessica's face radiated with joy. "How about a weekend by the beach?" "Absolutely, I would love that. I crave the warmth of the sun and the comfort of a glass of wine, just like I did yesterday." I gazed at the two of them seated opposite me, so relaxed, so oblivious, or perhaps not. Perhaps they were both putting on a show, yet I found myself smiling and responding with a yes. The beach house was stunning, almost overwhelmingly so. It was a rental Michael had discovered, a sleek, glass-paneled structure sitting gracefully by the shore. The sound of the waves gently filled the room, flowing through the open windows. The air was filled with the essence of the sea and warmth. We reached our destination on a Friday evening. I was fully aware that I had erred. There was an abundance of wine, an overflow of laughter, and an unsettling number of moments that felt just a bit askew. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Michael set up a speaker, and we found ourselves dancing barefoot on the patio, lost in the moment. Jessica twirled in her sundress, laughter spilling from her lips as she radiated joy beneath the warm orange sky. And Michael, he observed her closely, not with nuance, not any longer. There were moments between them that felt too familiar, too warm, moments that made me question what I was seeing as they moved past one another. He found her jokes irresistibly funny. He lingered in the space between them, and for a fleeting moment, I saw him gaze at her with the same warmth he once reserved for me. Jessica appeared oblivious. Perhaps she felt something, yet she was unsure how to interpret it. She was kind that weekend, considerate, repeatedly referring to it as a time for connecting as a family. She often expressed how comfortably it was to be surrounded by those who genuinely care and provide a sense of security. All I could think was that if she discovered the truth, she would never find it in her heart to forgive either of us. By Saturday night, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken feelings. It was one of those nights where everything appeared ordinary, yet there was an undeniable tension just beneath the surface. We had just wrapped up dinner, enjoying grilled seafood and sharing a few more bottles of wine. Jessica headed upstairs for a shower while Michael settled beside me on the sofa, our thighs brushing against each other. He gazed at me as if he were searching for the thoughts hidden within my heart. I understand that this might seem daunting, he said gently, but it doesn't need to be. He believed this could be a way for us to rediscover our connection, to find something new between us. He framed it as a turning point, a moment that could change our relationship forever, but it felt like a line we should never cross for the connection we've always longed for. I was at a loss for words. My heart felt like it was breaking apart. I gazed at him, truly gazed, and saw a stranger, someone composed amidst chaos, someone who had faith in his request. What makes it even harder, somewhere within me there was a part that yearned to trust him as well, to trust that this would bridge the emptiness between us, to trust that this would finally make me whole. I can't explain what happened. Perhaps it was the wine. Perhaps it was the anxiety. Perhaps it was the complicated desire that if I surrendered, I could somehow shape what followed. But I nodded just once, gently, and everything that came after turned into a haze I can never forget. That night was still, almost unnaturally still. After I nodded, there was a moment of stillness. Michael didn't spring into action. He simply sat beside me, smiling with a warmth that felt almost gentle. He reached for my hand, pressed a gentle kiss to it, and murmured, "Trust me." In that moment, I found myself following his lead. She came into the room, casually dressed, looking like the carefree sister I had always known. She reminded me of the little sister I once braided hair for, tucked in and shielded from nightmares. She looked carefree, like the sister I used to protect. Meanwhile, I felt the weight of everything unsaid pressing on me. We were nestled on the couch, the wine continuing to pour, the warmth of the fireplace enveloping us. And Michael said it just like that. He brought up an idea that made my heart race, something about all of us spending more intentional time together. I wasn't sure what he truly meant. Jessica blinked, her expression shifted, revealing a blend of uncertainty and shock. What? She laughed, but it was a nervous kind of laugh, the sort that climbs too high and too quickly. "You must be kidding, right?" Michael gazed at her, composed and unwavering. "No," he said, "we trust each other and believe in our bond. This could be an opportunity to explore something meaningful, something different." Jessica turned to me, her eyes wide, filled with a sense of urgency. "Wait, are you both all right with this? Are you certain?" I chose not to respond. I was unable to. The words lingered in a space between my ribs and my throat, so Michael spoke for both of us. "We are certain," he replied. "This is about understanding and closeness. We all desire a deeper connection." And then everything began to change. I didn't hold them back. I remained silent. I simply observed as it all happened. It felt as if I were detached from my own existence, as if I were observing from a distance, a quiet observer to the chaos of my own disintegration. Jessica leaned back, her mind racing, caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. Michael approached her deliberately, and I remained motionless, not from ease, not from agreement, but from a sense of emptiness. It felt as if I were witnessing a vehicle glide dangerously close to a precipice, powerless to intervene. But then, just as the moment was about to unfold, before that last boundary was crossed, Jessica withdrew quickly, in an instant. Her expression shifted. Her entire body tensed. She rose to her feet, shaking her head. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "This doesn't feel right," she expressed. "I just can't go on like this. This feels completely overwhelming. What are we doing?" She gazed at me, truly gazed, and in her eyes I witnessed a fracture. Then she turned and dashed upstairs, hurried into the guest bathroom and secured the door behind her. I didn't pursue her. Michael didn't either. We just sat there, enveloped in this silence, the kind of silence that feels vibrant. It was overwhelming, filled with unspoken words. Michael rose slowly, ran a hand through his hair and whispered, "She'll be okay." It's overwhelming, everything happening at once. As if that somehow eased the burden, it felt as if everything that just occurred had been wiped away. But what about me? I sat still on that couch in the beach house, the fire crackling beside me, a glass of untouched wine in my hand. All I could think was, what just happened? Jessica stayed inside that night. We could hear her soft cries just once through the door. And that was the final moment The last time she ever met my gaze, I lost her that evening. Not due to the events that unfolded, but due to the near miss. Because I failed to intervene, because I failed to safeguard her. And in doing so, I neglected my own well being because I allowed silence to convey my thoughts. And in that silence, everything was revealed. By morning, Jessica was no longer there. No farewells, no clashes. There was no note. Simply vanished. I heard the front door close around 6 a.m. I peeked out the window and saw her tossing her duffel bag into the back seat of her car. She didn't even look back at the house. I didn't check if we were watching. I didn't care. To be truthful, I wouldn't have done that either. Michael remained in a deep slumber as she quietly slipped away, or at least putting on a front. I sat on the edge of the bed, gazing at the floor for what seemed like an eternity. The carpet underfoot was almost too plush. The atmosphere in the room was stifling. Everything felt off. And when Michael finally opened his eyes, he yawned as if it were just another ordinary morning. Like nothing had happened, like we hadn't broken something precious just hours before. He sat up, stretched, and smiled at me. And then he said it, that sentence that still makes my stomach twist whenever I think about it. "You showed such courage last night," he murmured. "We're united now." United? I felt like a fragile shard split right down the middle, still intact in a way, yet so close to breaking apart. The journey back from the beach house was subdued. Michael steered with one hand, sunglasses perched on his nose, softly humming along to the radio. I gazed out the window the whole time, gripping the hem of my sweater until my knuckles turned pale. I found it hard to express my feelings to him. I struggled, even more to understand my own emotions. Back home, everything felt so ordinary. The kids rushed to greet us as we entered, eagerly asking if we had brought them shells or treats, sharing stories about their weekend at Aunt Sharon's. I smiled softly. I embraced them. I put on a facade, yet, deep down, I felt as if everything was falling apart. Every step I took in that house felt like navigating a fragile landscape. Jessica's door stood ajar, revealing an empty room. Her bed was neatly made. Her toothbrush is missing. There's no trace of her shampoo's fragrance. There shouldn't be any bracelets left on the bathroom sink. Merely an empty space, carved out. That night's sleep eluded me. I kept replaying her face in my mind, the precise moment she stood up, tears glistening in her eyes, shaking her head. The way she expressed it, "This doesn't feel right. I can't go through with this. This is unbelievable." I remained silent, unable to speak as the weight of the situation pressed down on me. The dream would replay endlessly. Me watching her run, me frozen on that couch. I won't be moving. Silence. Not saving her. And then her eyes, those big, trusting eyes, looking at me as if I had become a stranger to her. In that moment, I felt completely lost. Michael returned to work the following day as if everything was just the same. He kissed me on the cheek before he left, calling over his shoulder, "Let's do something just the two of us this weekend." "You truly deserve this." And I stood in the kitchen, still in my pajamas, staring at the toaster as if it held the answers to the unspoken questions swirling in my mind. The kids were the first to notice. At dinner, my youngest asked, "Where's Aunt Jessica?" I felt a chill run through me. My fork hovered midway to my mouth. Michael remained unfazed. He continued to eat, seemingly oblivious. I managed a smile, fragile and empty, and said, "She's just taking some space. She needed time." My daughter tilted her head. "Is she upset with us?" "No, darling, I wasn't truthful. She just needs some time alone for now." But deep down, I understood the reality. She had to be far away from me. Time went on, yet it felt like it stood still. They resonated like whispers. It felt as though I was experiencing the same hollow, relentless cycle repeatedly. I sent a message to Jessica once. "Only this once," I apologize. "Please reach out to me. Just let me know you're all right." She didn't reply. And deep down, I knew she wouldn't. Because how do you respond to someone who stood by and witnessed your downfall doing nothing to save you? The most painful part? It wasn't the quiet. It wasn't just the guilt. In that fleeting instant, I found myself contemplating it. I stepped through that threshold. And when I did, I lost more than just my sister. I feel like a piece of me is gone forever. I decided to start journaling again, not because I believed it would solve anything, but because I had no other place to bear the burden, the weight, the embarrassment, the chaos swirling in my mind. The initial line I penned. I gazed at it for what felt like an eternity before I finally put pen to paper. It wasn't solely his desire, and the second line emerged as if it were a revelation. I didn't realize I was holding this burden. A piece of me desired it as well. Not the action, not what he truly desired, but the recognition, the notion of being sought after, yearned for, acknowledged. After years of feeling unseen, overlooked, and unappreciated, there was something so alluring about the idea of being noticed once more. Even if the attention came from an unexpected place, even if it was tainted from the beginning. And then I wrote a question that I still don't have an answer to. Did I say yes to feel closer to my husband or just to feel anything at all? Because that's the part no one tells you about longing. It doesn't always lead you to someone else. Sometimes it guides you to your true self, the most isolated, shadowy part of who you are. The person who consents to choices you promised yourself you would never make. The individual who allows quietude to convey her feelings. The person who sacrifices her true self to avoid being lost. I've been replaying that night over and over in my thoughts. Not merely the expected instance. It wasn't only Jessica's tears, it was also the heavy stillness that came after, but everything that came before. The way Michael's eyes sparkled when she laughed, the way I kept glancing between them felt like I was an outsider in my own marriage. The way I allowed it to unfold, because a part of me believed that perhaps, just perhaps, if I agreed, he might love me once more. Not just desire, not ownership, affection, genuine, enduring, and tender love. I realize now that I made a mistake because whatever we shared in the past is no longer here. It was all gone. Embers and quietude and messages left unread. I attempted to reach out to Jessica again last night, just one time. It rang 4 times before it went to voicemail. I chose not to leave a message. What could I even say? I'm sorry I hesitated when I should have been there for you. I'm sorry for letting my loneliness take over. I think about you every day, and I struggle with feelings of self-hatred that you might never understand. No words could change the past. And silence. Silence is what I deserve now. Michael pretends everything is okay between us. Even better, he sometimes holds my hand now, brings home dinner. He gently kisses me on the forehead before heading off to work. This morning, he kissed my cheek. It felt light and casual, yet it carried a weight of meaning. And I stood in the doorway, watching his car pull out of the driveway, wondering who this man truly is. The one who spoke of love while urging me to open a door I should have firmly closed. The one who called me brave for presenting myself like a gift when in truth I was falling apart. And then I softly shared a thought that had remained unspoken until that very moment. I don't know if I can ever feel that way about him again, I whispered softly. If I just whispered it, perhaps it wouldn't sting as deeply. But it truly did. And then the next chapter unfolded. The aspect that had been evaded, the one that resonated more profoundly than anything else. And even more troubling, I find it hard to let go of my own mistakes because the hurt goes beyond the surface. It's something I carry within me, and some wounds, they linger. They simply coexist with you. Have you ever experienced a sense of invisibility, a feeling of being unvalued, so profoundly overlooked in your own existence that you agreed to something you instinctively understood was not right? I find myself pondering that question daily. Was I being selfish, or was I simply broken? It's simple to criticize from a distance, to suggest what should have occurred, to claim what you might have chosen. But when you're trapped in that silence, that space where you're overlooked, brushed aside, longing for connection, your perspective begins to shift. You find yourself making decisions that no longer reflect who you truly are. You justify You tell yourself just this once, or maybe it will make everything better. And before you know it, the cost becomes clear, but it's already too late. If you've ever been in that situation, if you've ever longed for something that seemed illogical, something that slowly eroded your spirit while offering the illusion of fulfillment, then perhaps you can relate. And if you don't, I wish for your sake that you never do. If you have any advice, a personal story, or simply a moment of kindness to share, please feel free to leave it in the comments. It's not solely about my experience. For anyone watching this who finds themselves at a crossroads, remember that every choice carries weight. And let's not rush to judge Jessica. She was unaware. She stepped into a home that appeared to be filled with warmth from the outside, completely unaware of the hidden decay within. She was pure. And I hold no resentment towards her. Not anymore. I hold the silence accountable, the unspoken truths, the part of me that shattered and allowed everything to unfold. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel understood, even in the slightest way, I encourage you to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga, because in this space, we embrace authenticity. We share authentic narratives, the individuals who exist in the in-between, where morality becomes unclear and emotions often defy expectations. Isolation speaks in more than just hushed tones. It roars. And sometimes we respond not because we truly believe in what we're agreeing to, but because we're yearning for any response to resonate with us. Longing for recognition, embraced, selected. But here's what I've learned in a soft whisper. Be cautious about what you consent to without speaking up, because sometimes the choices we make, they don't just linger in our minds, they transform who we are. And no words of apology can restore us to the people we once were.